Sonics and Na'Vi are tied as we head into our first game here of the day, the second day of Grand Finals here at PGS2, and it is a wrangle, as you said. So for a lot of these teams, starting with something, again, familiar before we head into Tego, and then we go back to Miramar, which has been more of a bloodbath than I feel like in previous events. I mean, Miramar has been ridiculous to watch.
That says something, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Miramar is always one of my favorites because of the capabilities for foot pushing, everything. It is going to be something we're gonna end on dessert, to say the least. Plane Path's gonna be coming in over George Pool, ending up around Milta Power itself. So, highest likelihood, we should be in for a bit more of a comfortable first game.
Well, I mean, you say that. We'll see what the circles do. But, I mean, that's even a really great topic of conversation as well, Matt, is like a lot of the rotations that we normally see from, you know, Cerberus or even Falcom's 4 AM, FaZe, for instance, were just so skewed because of the circles and how disgusting those shifts really were. And we saw a lot of edge fights between teams that normally would like to be more center or even just try to avoid that early game commotion when it comes to the rotation. So we'll see if that comes into play again. Obviously, some of the teams have had to rotate with little confidence.
And that is a big thing that we're going to be looking at, is specifically the teams that are figuring out how to handle some very odd shifts inside of circles, managing to kind of use the terrain itself to get into that later game situation, rather the ones that are going for more...
Oh my god! Little ghost! Sorry, you were making a point.
No, you're fine. My brain just shut down entirely. It's, I guess 777. This is not... do the big spins! Do the big spins! Dodge the headshots!
Anyways, you were saying?
Early game fighting, not necessarily something that's the most rewarded so far this event. And hey, you know, you wanted some water inside of circles. Now you got some water inside.
This one's very north, though, you know, touching Zarky there on the west. But we've seen circles actually come up here, not only in group stages, but even in losers brackets as well. There's a lot to play here. The terrain is very much conducive to foot pushing. Obviously, there's little dips and valleys, as well as just a nice elevation going towards crashed out plane. And Mime finally actually landing here, and he's going to get a nice little dossier.
We've had somebody already run over, and Sonic still haven't even put their feet down on the map. That is the way I want my Grand Finals to be.
I mean, that was a very quick runner there just to the northwest of Pachinki. A little bit of a, I don't want to say a risk, but I mean, obviously, with that wide split that we actually see coming out of the Expendables, it is very unfortunate they've already lost a player just going for a bike.
This is around the center of the circle, and it is going to be GP trying to navigate, make sure that they're getting their vehicles in order. Looks like they are also going to step over, send a couple of members over into Severny, as well as keeping them around shooting range. Very strong split for this type of circle. You do have to be careful of the chaos that will kick off inside of it. One of your favorite teams, because they dropped one of your favorite places over in Zarky, was going to be Forest, also going to have an inside track, and T5 not having to use an emergency pickup to get in the circle.
Yeah, for the time being, obviously we've seen T5 utilize those emergency pickups pretty much better than any team at this event. They've gotten multiple central positions off that. They've been able to actually land on top of other teams and catch it by surprise. And T5 has just looked so good. I mean, a team that I wasn't really looking at, I'll be honest about that, really coming in and just quiet consistency, right? We talk about it quite a bit, but they've really been racking up the points. They did have a win yesterday, as well as a second place, but they've just made sure that even in those bad games with those ridiculous circle shifts, they've been able to kind of utilize salvaging those points in very dire situations.
And one of my complaints about T5 was, okay, they were kind of sneaking into the circles using the emergency pickups beforehand, right?
Right.
And their kill counts weren't the highest, but now they've kind of remedied that. They're at a pretty decent chunk, sitting at 25 at the time, and then just actually ahead of several of the other teams that are known for their fragging capabilities. Whenever we're looking through teams such as like Danoa per se.
Yeah, I mean, when we even look at one of the games that ended in this area, T5 was able to come out of the bunker that they were pinned down against Sonics and found a window of opportunity there to get some damage. And Olympus will fall, but yeah, T5 again just been so impressive this whole event, and there's no surprise to me that they currently find themselves in 4th place.
Jinji was making a pathing up into here. Tyloo's going to go ahead and get the inside track onto him, force them away from that area. This is more of what we were looking at for the fight for the compound, as reinforcements coming in from both sides. It is going to be Forest that does get reinforced first. The issue with that one, though, is it does feel like If You Mine has more angles to really play around inside this one, most notably because they have more members.
Yeah, and so the two members there for us are stuck in that Prio 2 story, and Bob Zenghead, by the way, has just been so impressive this entire event for a game PT. So It's a nice angle, though, for Scappy, is being on top of these. He can feed a lot of information. Obviously, we do see Master there on the north side rotating around to try to get a different angle as well. So I like this setup and counterplay here from GP, but also from Forest.
And it's kind of weird with the repositions coming out. That's allowed Danoa to kind of sneak into that Severny line. Blue Zone nade's going to come out, and yes, it is going to force them away. Scappy reveals himself, takes the shots. He's going to receive some damage as well. And if you mind, just not really having to put too much, I guess, danger in their approach. This is just very slow, very methodical. They know exactly where everybody is that they're wanting to take down. Now, can Daku get around into this flank position? But he's got to be careful with Master, with straight up beating off.
Oh, he missed. Master actually with an opportunity to go for a knock there, and finally does find it, so that's going to be a nice trade. Awkward fight here, though, Matt, especially fighting on the backside of this two-story with the angles that Master is holding as well. So GP needs to push forward, and they need to find the knock, but they don't. Scappy will find two.
Can Scappy make the miracle happen? If you mind, pushes straight into a doorway, and he reads it. Hush, the last one up. As now, Scappy navigating this very slowly, trying to change the tempo back around. You can see a couple of other things that are starting to brew out here, but Scappy, dude, as far as Forest is going, he's been kind of their go-to guy.
Scappy and Olympus specifically have been the two. I mean, Olympus, unfortunately for them, has fallen, but yeah, Scappy has been really impressive. Even in group stages, actually, he looked very good, and watching them even kind of scrim a little bit, I've been most impressed with him on this team as well, again, with Olympus, but nade's not coming in. They did manage to recover here, so because of that beautiful double there from Scappy, it's just going to be Hush now upstairs with Hella on the bottom.
They're trying to stall this one out a bit more. You can see smokes now coming into play. They did, they're kind of hanging around that stairwell in and of itself, and shotguns now going to start to come out. Close-range fights, always going to have some strength added to them. And of course, Pio's over here.
Just
why wouldn't Pio?
Look how far he is for the rest of his team, but look how much space he's also been able to buy for the rest of his team, right? He now knows that that space in between himself and his teammates is going to be clean, so he's feeding all this information back while also just trying to get an angle and beat on this fight. Maybe he can get a cheeky little point here or there.
Dano was also shifted out of Severny and moved into the north in a 2-2 split of their own, so they might be able to get a piece of this as well if not careful. Pio got his couple of shots and is content. He's like, you now know that this area is mine. Looks like he's going to regroup just a bit more. T5 also around the same vector as they do have a 2-2 split of their own. This is very far into the north as everybody is trying to pick up that early game point here or there.
It is, but the thing I'm not worried about T5 is they've been doing splits like this, and their main advantage here is they actually know when to consolidate. They know when to pull back, and they really haven't had many issues losing players early. So I'm okay with this. I like this a lot from T5. They've shown great restraint in their splits and knowing when to kind of pull off. So they actually also have so much control on the west side of the circle, Matt.
If you mind, this is just become a standoff. Nobody can really do anything. I get a bit nervous when you see people leaning their heads into a very held angle by a teammate, because I feel like, you know, you might accidentally do that here in a second.
One specific situation I can think of is yesterday in Miramar, one of the games Sonics won. I think it was Shrimsy that ran in front of Win. Fortunately, Tig clutched that one up for them, but yeah, it happens. I have unfortunately been knocked as well as knocked my teammates in comp. It definitely doesn't feel good, especially when it can cost you a game. But yeah, so far we haven't had too many egregious examples of that happening, as Pio now, again, finding more members here, the Expendables. Remember, they did lose one earlier, Matt, as shots are going to go into the side of Tanvu. One will be found, but nice return there. It's going to make Pio think twice of it.
Just Pio scouting with bullets. He's prone to do it. He is pretty defended in, and it's more just to actually discourage. We see TE that was looking at coming into the plane wreckage itself. They're going to now have to shift away from this position. They're going to go to the south. Pretty open. Tai Lu was around here. It might take a couple of pot shots, something. Most teams already navigated this, got into the circle. Sonic's going to be down to the south, one of our tail-end teams to actually move into this. But, I mean, most of our action is really hinged around that Forest If You Mind compound, and even with that now settling down, Danoa has shifted to the east, and T5 has shifted to the west, so it's kind of became its own contained, awkward thing.
Even looking at some of the teams on the south, right, I'm specifically talking about Sonics that we see all the way here on the southwest side, as they're going to be right up in this hill, and I believe we actually have a little interview with one of the members of the Sonics. I think it's Mai, Huin.
In the driver's seat, but, I mean, we're going to treat day 2 and day 3 like it's a brand new day. We'll put in a little bit of review tonight, but for the most part, just try to stay relaxed and confident. I'd like to say we're our own worst enemy, but I think all the teams here are very strong. I'm kind of glad Cerberus didn't get a hot start. Those guys are insane. Daniel is also very talented, as well as Navi, who's tied for first with us. Yeah, to all the fans watching, friends and family, keep supporting. Hopefully it's the Sonic show.
I agree with that in a certain regards, that Sonics have been their
own worst enemy, yeah,
several times in the
100%.
past. Mental has been something that's been a problem for them in different LAN events, specifically when we get to the international stage and the pressure.
After PGIS, yeah. After PGIS, they definitely did struggle a little bit. Again, they've been riding that ship. PGS1 was a much better outing for them, and now coming into PGS2, they've been amazing. And again, we have to attribute Gunnar a lot of that credit, I believe.
And it's an entirely different environment. Whenever you'd see them at LAN beforehand, you could see
Oh my goodness.
mounting onto them, but now it's going to be a lot more of the fact of smiles, feeling good, feeling confident.
Man.
But circles, what are you going to even do? Still 50%, 60% watering, depending on how you see it. Dano already on the move. Everybody to the southeast just going to be shifting in. Keep in mind, shooting range Hillside is still inside the circle. Jim G, where we saw them a moment ago in that wreckage, going to be in a gatekeeping position in a circle? What?
That's pretty good. And then I'm really specifically looking at T5 as well. They held the same split when the circle came here, and they managed to get second or third place with a high amount of kills. Batoons is actually going to find Mel here early, and possibly even Uma, as he he doesn't skate by. That's going to be 3 members down for Na'Vi.
Na'Vi in a world of hurt, just trying to get away. If they manage to pass through this one, it's going to be the next compound where we can see Forrest kind of cemented in. Cerberus going to use that opportunity and just run right by what was going on with Jin Ji on the opposing side of that hill. FaZe can't find a pathing into this one, as we can see Example just trying to find somewhere to stop. He's got himself a shack. Wouldn't be surprised if that's going to be where he goes. We've got Ty Lu that needs to find a path into this one. Falcons and 4 AM all to the east.
Yeah, and the trend of disgusting shifts continues here as we go all the way to the northwest. I still can't believe it. There's still a corner of Zarky still in the circles. We see Question Mark, another team that if we're going to talk about, actually we'll get back there in a second as T5 is now shredding the rotation of Cerberus as they're coming in on the north coast.
Ross is just going to go ahead and pick up those. You can see Cerberus in their pathing having some issues. Got a couple of throwables coming out on both sides, but Fendal's going to go ahead and move down, see if we can get a bit lower into this one. Regroup's going to be coming out. Cerberus doesn't mind trying to hold it, but can't find the angle. That's going to be all she wrote for Cerberus, and early game aggression. Karma coming back after them.
And this has just been the problem for Cerberus, though. I mean, we saw them in group stages, winners bracket, basically winning every fight, whether it was in rotation, on the edge, or whether they had a central position. That has not been the case here for Cerberus at all. They have been getting so many first out games where they're going in 16th, 13th, 16th, 13th, 16th, again in 16th. I mean, it's not the start that we thought, and you heard Huynh talking about it. He said, thank goodness they haven't had a good start, because that team is really insane, but they haven't been able to show it in grand finals so far.
I want to point out T5 is running, I believe, a 3-1 split, and with the reinforcements had come in, centered inside the circle along the coastline, so back's pretty safe at the time.
They're going to send one back there, too.
Yeah, I like this. They've already managed to cement in position with car wreckage being around the outside of this. Ton of cars, also a very big thing that teams look at is they're going to be rotating. If this shifts one way or the other and go, oh, there's like 5 cars there. One crash has already happened, which means the fact that either they're weakened or we just want to avoid whatever the hell's going on.
Or even if they lose a car, right? Someone trying to shoot on tires, guess what? There's a couple more cars there that were actually just delivered. So they'll be able to potentially use those for rotations, as you were talking about later. But we also see Falcons flying in, and they're actually getting very close to the hillside that we see Sonics playing on. This is a strong hill to play. There's a lot of sight lines to be had, but it also is, it's pretty easy to fight on that from multiple angles, so Sonics have to be careful not to let them in too easy, but it looks like all 4 members of Falcons will be landing.
This is very well read on their approach. QM does see this. Looks like they're going to send a Doozy and Phil first to do some harassment. Sonic's also going to collapse in a bit more, not too comfortable about the fact that they've got somebody right on top of them. New Circle's going to pop.
I don't even know what to think with these shifts, Matt.
I mean, do you want some fields in play? Do you want the hillside? Do you want shooting range?
I kind of want it to go north.
You want it to go north?
I'm feeling a little sadistic today, Matt. But yeah, so they're going to get a little bit more of an even split, and this is amazing for Question Mark, because as you said, they control the entirety of the West. They have they can pick whatever position they want to play at this point, and they have a Doozy there with a nice forward angle, getting a lot of damage and peeking at what's happening between this fight with the Sonics and Falcons.
Death Funnel is going to be starting to pop off. As you can see, there's not a lot of options for these teams and how they're going to navigate it. 4 Angry Men's like, hey, there's a lot that's been going down over here. Doors open, crates all over the place, trying to figure out how they're wanting to make a move into this one. We do also have Twisted Minds that are going to be moving in along the same path and where Jin Ji and Tyloo are at. See, one of their members for Twisted Minds already down, one of the members for Tyloo down right now as well. FaZe also hearing this, and it looks like they're kind of lining up to see if they can get some harassing shots in.
Yeah, and Tyloo coming out of losers has actually really started to find their footing in grand finals. They started fairly hot as well with a couple kills in a 10th place, and they really started to bounce off that, and they're taking the fight right now to Twisted quite well. The rotation has been on point, obviously fighting on the east edge now, but they will have to contend with Gen G, which I worry about.
Bro, Forest, what is going on? They are just defending the absolute hell out of this compound. Nobody can come in here. They are, sure, they've got one of their members down, but you can see it's also going to be If You Mind, seeing if they can get the opportunity with it. They want to push it. I don't even know. They do get the flush, but it's going to come at the cost of a knock. I don't know. Hush, do you even want to come in here anymore?
It's just down to Hush now, and they've been able to defend from 4AM as well as GP. They've held them back for this long, as Master and Muto are still on the bottom floor, actually going for... He's just trying to find something, but again, what a hold. I can tell you, these are not easy buildings to hold as well.
If you mind, you can see.
For multiple teams.
Yeah, there is some harassment. There's also a couple of those smaller fights that we were looking at. You can see that's going to be down in the bottom right. Jin Ji, Tai Lu also getting involved. This is where Twisted Minds were trying to make a move into Tai Lu. They got pounced upon by Jin Ji. It's kind of the roaming tiger over here into the east right now. I do also want to point out Forest Compound. It's not even in the circle.
It's not in the circle anymore. Yeah, it's just edge. And you do see Danawa starting to set up for that. They know the fight is coming. As long as it's going to go down, Jinji will find an easy point there, eliminate Tai Lu. They'll go out in 13th. And so all of a sudden, the east side is very much open for Genji to start working their magic.
Oh, he wants
this. Has
so
been
bad,
going on
dude.
for so long.
This has been from circle 1 and back upstairs. Upstairs is my safe place.
There's nothing up there. Gosh.
Yeah, no, I think that it's just trying to get some recovery. See if maybe he can jump in back behind them. But no matter how this goes, let's be real. Jinji and Danawa both are just waiting for this fight.
Yeah, that's, and in between all that, you still have Example the solo. We saw them get shredded in rotation by Twisted Minds earlier, and he's just hoping and praying that nobody comes towards him. As again, Genji is setting up for quite a bit of control here in the east. And the only team that really would contest them is going to be on their south. It'd be the Expendables at this point. 17 as well, though. They've been a little quiet, but they have a strong position and a foothold in the circle. Is this going to shift, and they're going to get that position.
No big surprise on this circle, to say the least. As we're looking out, we do have FaZe that's going to need to move in from the south. They've got a couple of options. They could potentially try to wrap in a long wrap over to the west. Jinji looks like they're just trying to get rid of what's going on with Navi at the time. Last member up an Example, realizing the fact that he's got some potential problems that are going to be brewing around him. And this is, I mean, the only thing that's really helping out Example right here is the fact that Danawa is up to the north of them taking some shots, and that means that Jinji doesn't want to move too aggressively.
And question mark now. I am curious what they're going to do here, because they do have a doozy in the field, but Sonics and Falcons are both very aware of that position and the rotation coming out from the west side. So they are going to have to do a little bit of work here, probably fight fairly soon, as, again, both Sonics and Falcons are staring at their position, and they're starting to take shots that way.
If anything, the If You Mind game PT fight with Forest has stalled a lot of these teams as they want to pick up some of these kills. They just want to try to push their points per game decently. But the issue is it's just not ending. And so you can't pick up those kills. Nobody's rotating out, and so you've got multiple teams just kind of stacked in here. And that's causing a big problem for Example in and of himself, because he can't sneak past until the dominoes start to fall over here with If You Mind and Forest.
Well, at this point, too, I feel like some of those teams need to actually start really looking ahead in the circle and see what they're going to play, because even though the center does have quite a few different elevations, dips, and things for these teams to kind of find themselves in, it's actually going to be not as open on the east side. We do see Delwyn on that road actually starting to flex towards Gen G, and I do worry about this. I mean, this has been ridiculous how long this has been going on as well between... Hush has been alive forever. He's going to fall out of this, but he falls into the mall. He's going to take half health damage, and now he's going to recover there, but I'm not sure if they know that he actually jumped out. So Xiao Wu could potentially backstab FaZe here in a pretty ridiculous play.
It's going to be moving in.
He flushes one. Okay, they're aware now.
They should know where he is going to be at. Shifted defending positions. Now, good spray, going to hit some, but not get the flush that he wants right now. You can see that the Forest fight going on over there finally starting to come to a conclusion. That's been, what, 3 circles now?
Yeah, at this point, and Gustav now would love to recover Fex, but still Xiao Wu being a thorn in their side. And this is a nice little compound here on the southeast side. They should be able to wrap to the east, go up the hill, and maybe get something there, especially as the 3-man, but Xiao Wu does not want to let that happen. He'd love to get some more points as well himself.
trying to go for that cheeky little bounce on the utility. Jiawu reads it, but numbers now becoming a big problem for him. He just really has nothing that he can work with right now. He's got this outer wall. Circle's not even going to favor this position. Another Molotov.
Nice molly.
This is just going to absolutely ruin his day. That is going to be FaZe Clan finding more kills in the mid game, and it looks like they're starting to find their synergy and momentum.
Yeah, I mean, looking at their results so far, 28 points, you know, they had a 11th, a 15th, a 10th. They did struggle a little bit, but then they found that 9-kill win and then got some more kills in the games following. So FaZe starting off the 4 here, 3 alive is very important, but now they're going to have to come into this shift because the East is no longer an option. They have to go right into Falcons, Matt.
I want to point out, as we're jumping in with Danoa, they picked up some kills based off of the fights that were going on in the East. We still have Master alive for Forest. He's out in the blue zone right now, as well as Example. Most of the fight kind of let's be honest, it went pretty heavily in Danoa's favor with a lot of the exchanges. Circle is going to shift over into the west. Sonics did retreat out of this hillside as well and are playing more to the west to try to contain what QM was trying to do.
Yeah, and they left Hwin at that wizard tower, and he's looking at that position. The other members there are also at an off angle where they can cover the approach onto Hwin's position quite well, but I still do worry about the split, especially if Hwin gets knocked. He knows he cannot get knocked here, and he's playing a safe side of the tower on the east. And look at the circle. T5 once again utilizing the split that we saw them use in the circle before. I believe it was in the winner's side. Were able to pretty much guarantee themselves a 3rd place, and they might just even get more off of this, as we see an Ob now in the hands of the FaZe members, I believe.
Falcons need to be careful. They're getting surrounded, and this is not going to be the easiest way to go through. Forest going to go down. Finally, Danoa finishing out that. Danoa now has a pretty clean path, all considered, into this one. The hillside's going to provide some opportunities for him, but that does mean that they can funnel down into the thick of what's going on with this Falcons and FaZe firefight.
Yeah, Jeep's going to find a nice kill there, and Gustav is just continuing to be an absolute menace in the server. I think back in the game that he was able to hold off Genji by himself in Millie Island, so FaZe really starting to again find their footing and really start to put the pieces together, especially when it comes to these team fights. They are really starting to dictate the pace.
My man brought a metal chair into his walkout. I think that says something, right? Hard hat one time, metal chair for the other one. He's like, we got goals, and that goal is popping off this time. They are sitting at 6 kills right now. They are about to be getting into that sight line of Danoa, as Danoa is moving up the hill. Fex is going to go down. It's going to be Anonix finding that one quick.
Yeah, that's going to be a second bleed. Fex will be all but gone. So duo left on the side of FaZe, and they're still also going to have to contest with Sonics now that have spread out and come on the south, so they will be sandwiched. It is just down to Gustav, as Sonics, though, need to be careful of question mark, and as you see, they're actually starting to pivot back towards Hwin.
Don't want to leave him too much by his lonesome. T5 also making a push down the hillside. It's going to be Falcons that spots that out. We have a cluster of teams. QM getting the center of the circle, but now look like they have their eyes set more into the east, where Falcons, where T5, and where Danoa are all at.
But look how much of a position QM has actually been able to take while all of this fighting has happened, as Phil First is now going to find a member of Falcons, and they're starting to spread their control, even looking at T5.
Question mark has just been slow in their approach into this. They have so much information they've been able to collect in. They know that a lot of these teams, specifically in the East, are coming in weakened. Falcons are going to get eliminated, as Anonix going to find yet another one. Danoa coming alive, though. That firefighting over there in the East, if anything, just feels like it woke them up, and they've got some goals in the circle.
Yeah, and there's some points for them to get in between question marks and themselves, with T5 still at that position, Sonic's Hwin still at that wizard tower, and even the other 2 members there, Tiggleton and Shrimsy, should be able to come up. This is going to be a potentially tough fight unless question mark actually rallies and makes sure they focus on Sonics first. Then at that point, they pretty much have all the control they want, as T5 isn't going to be pushing out of that anytime soon.
Danoa wrapping this out. Bad news for Gustav, as he's about to find himself very, very outnumbered. Sonic's still playing that hillside, as it's... I like what Danoa is trying to do, but if they take these shots into Gustav, that's going to reveal their position. Sonics is going to know where they are, and now that means that Sonic's offensive line is just going to be waiting for this approach.
Yeah, and they're going to be looking at this, and unfortunately for Danoa, this is actually a fairly open bowl that they're about to rotate into, and so I think they're probably going to go for the east side wrap. That's actually a much better position. Plus, they really only have to deal with T5 sitting in that bunker. So yeah, this is much more beneficial. And Danoa, as you said, have been finding quite a few kills already in this first game.
Hey, they're trying to creep up there. Remember, we started this thing off with the tie for first place. Danoa's trying to see if maybe they can just take all of that away from everybody, getting closer by the second. T5, yeah, you're defended. You got yourself a position. And remember, we did actually see them break out of one of these.
Which is crazy because I remember when I was calling that, I had no expectations they were going to be able to push out of that smoke and kill Sonics on top of them. They found the window, and again, they've utilized this split even before that happened in that game to great effect, already guaranteeing themselves a top 4 finish. So another great decision made by Theraton 5.
The big benefit right now for QM is that T5 is so entrenched in position, so they don't have to worry about their east as much. It's just going to be Sonics who keeps trying to do a couple of feelers over here. They do have their backs up against Blue Zone. We're still only at phase number 6, so no big rush is going to be coming out. Well, I say that. Loki apparently has decided, I'm going to go back this direction. You were expecting us to go back to the east, so let's see if we can find a way to make this one work. Sonics, the shots!
I don't know if they know that Loki is so close to Shrimsy and Tig, and he might be able to get a surprise knock, maybe even a double, which would ruin Sonics as Hwin is already focused on question mark on the northwest. And so they have to be careful. They have to realize that someone is going to be close, right?
This is what we call a target-rich environment, to say the least. Tiggleton, I think he knows. He's creeping in. Oh, doesn't matter. Loki just hits the shots. Headshot going to take him down. Loki, are you going to be able to pick up more? Shrimsy steps back. Going to go ahead and throw the Molotov. Circle is going to pop. Heavily favored QM. No big surprise there. QM now making a shift down into the west. Think maybe they can harass out Hwin in his position.
And Hwin now has to be just as big as Gustav was against Genji, as he's pretty much the only thing holding back QM as they hear this fight, and they would love to get the points and get that third party rolling. You even see Bestalok and Phil first trying to look for the angles on top of the hill.
While this is going on, Danoa also shifted all of their members into that Sonics line. They know they're playing the recess down the hillside. They want to try to pick this one up. Soul looks like he was trying to venture a bit more into the south, but they realize they've got circle control, and that bull is just going to be a death trap. That means that they either have to push in Sonics into Danoa or Sonics into QM. Neither a good option.
Neither of those, yeah, neither of those choices are very good, Matt, as they're going to have to go for that southern wrap. But now Soul is also, as you said, a nice position there to hold on the south side. And so Sonics, all of a sudden, with all that position on the west, now they're actually pinched between two teams who are very much in a position to capitalize.
And T5 using this. They've stepped out of their bunker. They're now starting to look around.
So smart.
They can creep out off of this when they know that QM's going to be distracted, and they can navigate a much freer circle in what was going to be a catastrophe and them trying to get out now suddenly is an opportunity.
Again, the windows of opportunity that T5 has been able to capitalize on all event has just been nothing short of amazing. These boys are really on top of it when it comes to utilizing the position that are in. Even if they're at a disadvantage, even if they're inside of a bunker, they still find a way to come out and get some more points or even survive completely as a team. So with 3 members up, they can still do a lot of damage in the north as they're slowly starting to take control, as Soul now will take damage from a grenade.
Trying to step away from it. Looks like that's going to be the go sign for the Sonics. Seeing if they can spot something. They need a knock here, and they know it. But look at how entrenched in Danoa is. They are just waiting for those heads to pop up over the top of that hillside and just unload. H1 has shifted away from his position in QM. Numbers now stacked up over here. Loki just waiting, spotting him out. Goes for the spray, does get taken, but he's going to go down. Exchange happening now. Just Shrimsy fighting this one through. Soul going to get the knock, but it came at the cost of 1.
And it also came at the cost of the alerting question mark that fight has now concluded. Only 2 members left. A nade from Phil first will find Soul, and it's just down to Anonix. He has a P90, but how much can he do against a 4-up, full strong question mark who has taken no damage?
Stepping in, they spot this one out. They're going to go for the flush. Anonix, man, now finds himself pinched and unhappy. T5 is stepping out. Dante has had to make his move up into the north to make sure to contain anything that T5 is doing, as finally we're getting into phase number 8.
Dante being the anchor there, and question mark has actually realized it's probably not worth to go hunting, especially outside of the circle, especially with T5 now on the east side with 3 members up and a decent amount of control. So they will pull back, and this has been question mark's MO, and I love it. They are very aware of what is happening in these final circles, which is how they've been able to navigate them so effectively.
They came in, they moved into that Zarki area, they slowly progressed into the east with the circles. They realized where everybody was going to be playing around them. And Onyx, that's all she wrote for you. Not too much that more you can do there. T5, you've been able to navigate the circles well. You've been able to get in positions. You've been able to climb the leaderboard. But now you're going to have to go up against QM that has a very centered position. They have the hillside, and they have a numbers advantage.
Yeah, T5 now is going to have to make some sort of miracle happen as a doozy will find Rosseted. Only 2 members left for T5 as you said, they are at a big disadvantage here on the bottom of the slope. And question mark slowly starting to close this one out, spreading out throughout this hill.
And there might be a slight firepower difference whenever we're looking at QM.
Just
these guys have been these guys have been unloading in the later stages of it. Pathapong says no.
Smart. Deny it. Yep.
Just go ahead. We're comfortable in our position on the leaderboard. We're just going to go ahead and feed this one over the blue. We're not even going to give you a point and let you climb because we know that you haven't picked up very many kills. You get the placement points. That's it.